town, little city, I guess, east of Vancouver, Washington, on the other side of the river, called Camas. And it's named after the camas lilies that abound there. Here's a poem called Camas Lilies by Lynn Ungar. Consider the lilies. Oh, pardon me a second. Consider the lilies of the field. The blue banks of Camas opening into acres of sky along the road. Would the longing to lie down and be washed by that beauty abate, if you knew their usefulness? How the natives ground their bulbs for flower. How the settlers' hogs uprooted them, grunting in gleeful oblivion as the flowers fell. And you, what of your rushed and useful life? Imagine setting it all down. Papers, plans, appointments, everything. Leaving only a note. Gone to the fields to be lovely. I'll be back when I'm through with blooming. Even now, unneeded and uneaten, the camas lilies gaze out above the grass from their tender blue eyes. Even in sleep your life will shine. Make no mistake, of course, your work will always matter. Yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one like these. Like one of these. Consider the lilies of the field. The blue banks of Camas opening into acres of sky along the road. Would the longing to lie down and be washed by that beauty abate if you knew their usefulness? How the natives ground their bulbs for flour? How the settlers' hogs uprooted them, grunting in gleeful oblivion as the flowers fell? And you, what of your rushed and useful life? Imagine setting it all down. Papers, plans, appointments, everything. Leaving only a note. Gone to the fields to be lovely. I'll be back when I'm through with blooming. Even now, unneeded and uneaten, the camas lilies gaze out above the grass from their tender blue eyes. Even in sleep your life will shine. Make no mistake, of course. Your work will always matter. Yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. The Sangha awakens early. We come into the day from sleep, and there's no telling. There's no way of knowing ahead of time what mood will come with us to awakening. This body has its usual aches and places that need some stretching. Seems like we were just here. Was everything that appears to have happened between then and now a dream? And thoughts arise. A memory of an old ritual. This is the time when my teachers told me to reflect on the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. I take refuge in this moment, in the incredible complexity of life, among the 10,000 times 10,000 things. All day I intend to practice being awake. Awake while talking here, awake while bathing, awake while driving, present. Present when answering the phone, present when going out to mail the letters. Especially present with the email. And even more especially present in any face-to-face meetings. Precious, one-of-a-kind persons. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma, in the way things actually are. I take refuge in the Sangha. It's an astonishing lineage. I have much stronger inclination to dwell upon my lineage through the Buddha than I do through my family of origin. They're both important. Lady Sayadaw U-Ba Khin Ruth Denison. Now that's a lineage. And so let's come to this spot where we are right now. And let's park ourselves like a rock. Or maybe like one of the giant redwoods I hugged a few days ago. It was raining hard, but there wasn't a drop of rain under the redwood. The bark was kind of rough. A giant. And so we take a seat right here. We come home to here, to now, to this breath. There's really nowhere to go except right here. Always. And so let us abide in the sensations of breathing. rooted like ancient trees. We can watch the people come and go. They look a little silly how fast they move. And in attending to in-breathing and out-breathing, it's really obvious that there is a beginning to every breath. It doesn't exist at all, and then it begins. And then it continues to fullness. And then breathing in vanishes and breathing out begins. And that continues moment by moment until it slows down and then it stops. Thoughts arise. They could be familiar old worries, or the mind obsessing with how it's going to solve this problem or that problem, or what's wrong with oneself or another, what's wrong with the world. As we settle, these thoughts become as clear as the breath. Most likely this that you take to be you gets entranced, goes on the journey with the thoughts, actually is created on the journey with the thoughts. And the thought trances can go on for quite a while. Actually, they can go on for years. But once one starts to practice like this, There's a remarkable, miraculous, spontaneous awakening in the middle of thoughts. Mindfulness blossoms like the camas lilies. It's a natural phenomenon, part of nature. Sometimes we use mental notes. Thinking, returning, rising, falling. Perhaps the mind is preoccupied. Perhaps it is embroiled in one of the five or several of the five hindrances. Maybe restlessness and agitation, worry. When that's strong, coming back to the breath may not be so helpful. Instead, we turn this mystery of awareness toward the restlessness, agitation, and worry itself. We notice that quality of mind and being. We notice how dukkha-ish it is. It's unpleasant. We notice if it has vibrations or resonances in the body, tightness in the throat maybe, or something in the jaw. And we become really curious. What is What is this energy of restlessness and agitation? Or maybe the other end of that polarity is up and it's sloth and torpor. There's dull, sleepy, lethargy, lack of interest. That state itself can be very interesting. Or maybe the mind is just quiet. And maybe it's very pliable, in which case one might direct it somehow, direct awareness to the life in the hands. This cloud of life, which is just here, right here. And we can abide in the truth of anicca, impermanence, in the song of life in the hands. We can practice with a certain greed, a certain wanting. I want to get somewhere. I want to be enlightened. I want. This too is a worthy object of observation all by itself. It results in a certain devaluing of now. If you discover yourself leaning into the future like this, embrace that fully. Notice the dukkha of it. The tightening of the eyebrows, the forehead, the leaning forward a little bit. I'm going to get there and get it. And all the while, like a slow metronome in our life, there's this breath. Always inviting us home to now. How intimate do you dare to be with your breath? How fully are you willing to dive into life? Since life is impermanent, to dive in and commit inevitably results in loss. Is it worth the price? You may discover that as you practice mindfulness of breathing, the breath becomes more and more and more tangible. Its song of impermanence becomes more and more obvious. And the ease with which you abide in life becomes more and more tangible. Doesn't mean the problems all go away. They are the nature of life. But there is this place of love, where there's room for everything. There's compassion for every small hurt and big hurt. The following is a quote from Pema Chodron. In the process of awakening, the journey goes down, not up. It's as if the mountain pointed toward the center of the earth instead of reaching into the sky. Instead of transcending the suffering of all creatures, we move toward the turbulence and doubt. We jump into it. We slide into it. We tiptoe into it. We move toward it however we can. We explore the reality and unpredictability of insecurity and pain. And we try not to push it away. If it takes years, if it takes lifetimes, we let it be as it is. At our own pace, without speed or aggression, we move down and down and down. With us move millions of others, our companions in awakening from fear. At the bottom, we discover water, the healing water of wakefulness. Right down there in the thick of things, we discover the love that will not die. Time and again, thousands of times, 10,000s of times. There is awakening in the trances. And then there's returning. If we're using the strategy of concentration with the breath, mindfulness of the breath, there's always something very simple we can do to be here with this breath right now. May all beings benefit from the merits of our practice this morning. May all beings live in peace. May all beings remember our true great nature. And as the gong sounds, please take it as an invitation into a wakefulness, not as, oh good, that's over. Now I've done my meditation, I can get on. I can get on with the important things. Instead, make it very intentional how, in a certain way, we bow to the breath, we bow to the body. Become aware of the contact of the body with the chair, and then maybe the hands and maybe the eyes. And notice engaging with the eyelids, and then how is it that we move towards seeing? Can you hear that plane passing overhead? Does that come through in the microphone? No. It's an aluminum and titanium tube full of human beings. May they be happy. May they land safely. It's a kind of slight sleet here right now. I don't know whether it's freezing on the road. I'm kind of hoping it's bad driving so I don't have to go out. I sure like my little house. Thank you to everyone who helped make it happen. It's a special place. I don't want to do announcements this morning, so everything's on the website now, portlandinsight.org. So if you'd like to entertain yourself and go deep on New Year's Eve, the info's there. Candles teaching is up there. It's all there. So how is it for you on this incarnation this morning?
Good morning, Robert.
It's Michael. Hello, Michael.
Good morning,
Sherman.
everybody. Robert, I'm sitting with a lot of thoughts and feelings this morning, and I'm not sure how appropriate it is to share all of them. So I need you to let me know if I overstep my bounds.
Will I ring the bell?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Get the hook. Get Michael off. No.
But here's what's happening. Had a comment a couple of days ago about coercion while he's meditating, and you called it violence, which was stunning to me. And the idea is that the small things that I do to myself, like you're such an idiot or whatever I say to myself, that's real violence. But I pretend that it's just kind of a social, social thing, not very important. So that was the first thought. The second thought was yesterday, Dave had a comment about when we name things, they carry their own stories. And so we get caught up in the fog of the story rather than having the direct experience of whatever is going on. So those two thoughts. And then the event that occurred yesterday was I got a phone call from my older brother who has been in a relationship for over 30 years that's been very, very abusive. And she has physically and emotionally abused him. And I don't know what his part of it is, except that he collapses into submission. And it's been going on forever. So he called yesterday to tell me that they're getting married today. And I'm sitting with that. And when I first heard it, I didn't have a name for what I was feeling, which was very strange because there's so much comfort in the reference to this is sadness, this is anger, this is whatever. And maybe I was just stunned, but there was no reference. And then this morning I woke up and we got more snow and I was complaining about that and it's very cold and so on. And then the sense of isolation that I think that my brother is living in was just really heartbreaking. So I'm sitting with that heartbreak and also listening to what you've been saying and letting go of things and being aware of rising and falling. And that sometimes that happens within a few seconds, and sometimes that happens over a course of days or whatever. This is a long story that's sitting in me now. It's not passing yet. But he's getting married at noon today, our time. So I want to hold him in my heart, even though I believe from my perspective that he's like I do and the rest of us do. He's making this devotion to this delusion that has been slowly killing him. And I make my devotions to my delusions, and then I manage to let them go a little bit because of the medicine that is available here. So that's what I'm sitting with, and I just wanted to say it to sort of start to release it from my body. I love my brother, and he breaks my heart, and it would be wonderful to with joy say congratulations, or to be there, or to do something like that. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. It's really, really hard to watch our loved ones suffer. And when we're powerless, as we are, over their decisions, that first step of AA, I came to accept that I was powerless over alcohol or whatever it is. And I have found it excruciatingly difficult, but to be able to practice saying, I've come to believe that I'm powerless over the decisions of my parent or my child or that they're on their own karmic journey. There's a lot of power. There's an awful sense of powerlessness sometimes. Maybe
it's exactly the right word. I mean, it's been about a week since I've been able to leave this house, and so there's that sense of powerlessness that permeates every second of my wakefulness for the past week, and then that gets superimposed onto what my brother is doing, and he gets to live his life, and I am able to let go of a lot of that. I guess I have grief for myself, but mostly I just have grief for him. I think that he believes that he deserves to suffer. Mm-hmm. And I wish that he had a practice that would steer him in a different direction. Mm-hmm. But I think his practice is his devotion to his delusion.
That's really
he's conscious in a lot of other ways. He's a brilliant painter and so on and so forth. But with this relationship, he's gone. I mean, as far as I know.
I've lived this delusion. I'm hurting so much, it must mean I should commit more fully.
Mm.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Michael.
Yeah, just to sum it up then, the idea that this stuff is really violent, the idea that the names that we give to things are not the things themselves and can be delusional,
Amen.
and the idea of just loving and letting go. Thank you.
Yeah. And FYI, you didn't come anywhere near the hook this morning at all. It was not necessary.
Oh, thanks, Robert.
Your sharing of yourself is a gift to all of us. You know, this might be a worthy moment to mention something. I got a few moments. Among the wholesome mental states in the Buddhist view are the four that are known as the Brahma Viharas, the abode of the gods. And they are loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And I know I've heard this. I heard my teacher saying it forever, and I sort of believed it, but I didn't know it. But the notion is that when we pull away, or when the obscurations, the Tibetans say, fall away, of greed, hatred, and ignorance, what remains is love. What remains are the Brahma Viharas and wisdom, compassion. So, if love means there's room for everything, which is this framing of it that Achan Semedo said. So we know this experience of loving, and there's the sticky loving, which isn't really love; it's attachment. But there's that love where one really wishes well for the other and for oneself, and that can be developed. And we're doing it every time we sit down to meditate. We're practicing that because we're letting things be. And then, when love meets suffering, the Buddha called it there's a trembling of the heart. And could get sidetracked here. There's something that happens in the first year of life. There are parts of the prefrontal cortex that must be stimulated, and they're stimulated by the loving parent, by the loving caregiver. If a baby misses that, they develop something called reactive attachment disorder, and they don't have empathy. Empathy is learned in the first year or so of life. I had a stepdaughter with RAD one time, and she is I haven't seen her in years, but she was when I last knew her, she was in and out of jail and a methamphetamine addict and quite a violent person. And she was desperate for something, but she had no capacity to receive empathy or to give it. So, however, with a normally functioning brain and adequate parenting, good enough parenting, we develop this capacity. It's a natural human capacity of compassion. And so there's love, and in this love, and we can view it in our own meditation, when we're in love and some hurt comes up in us, there is some conditioning, which is to call oneself names, and you shouldn't be that, and that's in us. But we learn how, when the suffering is up, that we allow ourselves to feel it as the pain and suffering that it is, and that provokes compassion. And compassion has an active component, which is mercy. This isn't from Buddhism, but it's a Catholic view, that mercy, and so the impulse, how can I help? How can I be useful? And so that's a lot about engaging. And then when the same energy meets success and happiness and someone flourishing, it converts into sympathetic joy. And so instead of being jealous of someone else's great success, there's quite a spontaneous, wow, that's great. I hope that one of the words are, I hope that continues and grows. May that stick around for a long time. And then there's the less talked about, but of great importance, and this is particular for your circumstance, Michael, which is the practice of the reality of and practice of equanimity. And each of these Brahma Viharas has a simple statement. The first is, may you be happy. May I be happy. May you accept yourself fully. The second is, may you be free from suffering. The third is, may you take delight in this success or happiness, and may it continue for a long time. May it grow and prosper. And then the seventh, this equanimity, is quite a different beast. And in equanimity, the statement is, all beings are the recipients of their own karma. It is not because of my wanting or not wanting that people have their experiences, or that I have my experiences. And so there's it's not hard-heartedness, and it's definitely not caring, but it's a wise realization that I have done what I can in compassionate action, and there's nothing more to do. And so I can stay focusing on the compassion and their suffering, or I can relinquish them and realize, well, this is their journey. And people really misunderstand this. It isn't hard-heartedness, but it is a necessary development if a person's going deep in their meditation, because otherwise the world will burn you out. I mean, there is no way to be super open-hearted, especially, how about this? Get really develop more super open-hearted, and then turn on the TV, which brings in the floods in north central Brazil, and the fires in somewhere, and the shooting in Denver yesterday, and we have a heart that's just broken. So we must learn, well, number one, how to turn off the stupid TV, but also how to live in peace in this moment, realizing that the world is, the Buddha put it, the world is on fire, and we can't be the fire person for the whole world. We can't really be the fire person for our own families often. So, may there be something really good in this marriage for your brother, and may you, dear, sensitive, beautiful Michael, have peace, equanimity. And one more thing. Equanimity is one of the 7 enlightenment factors. All these lists actually make sense. They're useful mnemonic devices. That in the 7 Enlightenment Factors, there's mindfulness, curiosity, persistence or energy, effort. Then there's joy, and then there's concentration, tranquility, and equanimity. And the equanimity, how does one say this? Hang on, I had something up last night that I could use. See if I can find it quickly. Could search. No. Oh, I know how to do it. This way. Zoom. Preferences. Huh, not working. Oh well. I'll look one more second on here. Kind of loses the point if it takes this long, Robert. Okay, I'll give up. All right. Imagine that a picture of an unbelievably complex and vast spiral galaxy is in front of you. Imagine you're floating in space and you realize that you're in one of these galaxies. In this particular case, is your brother's suffering something to become, something to join and have more suffering about? Or is it a mysterious manifestation between two people of something that humans do? It's part of us. And then can we release ourselves into equanimity and realize it's okay, right? There really isn't a problem. Now this is the absolute or non-dual perspective, and both are true. There's the worldly dualistic perspective, and then there's violence, and we do what we can to stop it. But to have one foot in both of these worlds is very helpful, because the world is on fire. And if we think we're going to stop it, we will drive ourselves crazy. And we'll become violent ourselves because it becomes too overwhelming and unbearable. One last thing. My preceptor, when I was a monk for a while in India, Bhikkhu Rastrapal, I didn't like it when he said this, but he said it many times, and I think he was trying to pry off my codependent fingers. He said again and again, Robert, when I meditate, I don't think of you. I don't think of anyone. And I believe he was right. I mean, he was true, telling the truth. I guess that's when my experience of meditation is I'm not, if someone comes to mind, it's another thought. That's not where I want to, that's not the direction. So thank you, Michael. What's your brother's name?
Thank you, Robert. I really appreciate it. His name is Joseph.
Joseph.
I have a request. Can you say that list of the obscurations again, please?
The obscurations.
Yeah, you were
Greed,
talking
hatred,
about
and
loving
ignorance.
kindness and compassion and those things that keep us away from that. And you had a short list of words.
Greed, hatred, and ignorance.
Thank you.
Which are at the very center of the wheel of the 12 steps of dependent origination. Hang on here, I can show you. Right here. Ba-bum. Blow that up. It is at the very center of the 12 steps of dependent origination. There's a pig, a snake, and a rooster. And they are portrayals of greed, hatred, and ignorance that run life. They are the motivating factors that run the whole thing. And let me see how I could go back. Not that way. I have a lot to go through. Move so fast, it's just a blur. Yeah, here we're getting close. One more, two more, one more. Whoop. This is that picture I just showed you is here at the center of this whole. This is the 12 steps of dependent origination here. And the Buddha, I was just giving a talk on this last night. The Buddha, after his awakening, he said it was understanding this 12 steps that set him free. And understanding that at the core of it. And it actually makes sense in kind of intuitively. What causes us suffering? I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. And I have no idea what's going on. I have no mindfulness. I can't see the process here at all. So therefore I ricochet from one unskillful action to another because I have no idea where I am. So it really makes sense. Those are the roots of suffering. And anytime we're suffering, one of the strategies we can use is to say, so, am I suffering here because I want something to be different? Do I want more pleasure? Do I want less pain? Or am I suffering because I haven't got the least idea what's going on?
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, everybody. It's a great help.
Well, I must be on my way soon. Anybody sitting with something that's got some pressure? Can't see what it's doing out there right now. Anna Ruiz, I would like to study that painting. Is there a particular, how can you find it on the internet? You can find it, look for, I'll type it in the chat. All right, I want this to go to everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Look for TICCASAMUPPADA, Paticca or the Wheel of Dependent Origination. Oops, that's wrong. I have to press this. There. I have been thinking to put it up on my, let me think for a second. How did I do that? Oh yeah, I can't. Let me see if I can't get it up on my blog today. I'll try to do that. And look up the writing on it because it's a remarkable thing. It's the oldest psychological diagram in the world. Jamie, you're unmuted.
Oh, good morning.
Hi.
Sorry.
Was that an accidental unmute?
I think so. I can share if that's. I just never know how much to share. I feel so many things, and I feel them so deeply, and I don't know which parts of that are maladaptive, and which parts of that are a gift. I don't know if that makes a bit of sense.
I can make meaning of it in several different ways. Yeah, I can. But let me say this. You're not oversharing.
Great. Good. I think we all fear that, right? We fear sharing too much or being too vulnerable or saying the wrong thing. And being a mess in front of other people is kind of a gift because it just makes a lot of room for whatever messes are around us. Yeah. So I didn't mean to unmute myself, but thank you for hearing my voice this morning.
Dr. Freud would say some part of you meant to unmute yourself, and I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. Thanks for sharing.
Yes, thank you.
Bye. Are you speaking, Douglas? Oh, you were unmuted for a second.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't know if it was going to come through or not. So, so many thoughts really swirling through my head. And, and there's so much stimulated by the flow of the conversation in the group this morning. And I think that the thing that was really poignant for me in my experience, which I'd like to share and share some gratitude for your passing along of these teachings in the way that you do. And that's about how you can't force an experience that you desire when you sit to meditate. You can't force a becoming, or you can't force being good that this practice is about. Yes, in my best understanding, sort of holding a space for something to happen. Something to happen.
You're very
faint. Very, very restless mind, realizing that what skillful cultivation, intention, wise energy, wise effort is trying to just open up to being able to see that that's what's happening. So, thank you.
Thanks, Douglas. Well, dear friends, I must make a move here. I want to see Jennifer before she takes off for work. So let's sing our way home. May all beings receive all blessings. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam Sadhu 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 What exquisite harmonies. Well, bye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a lovely day.
Bye. Such joy.
And I'll see you a moment from now tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Robert.
Have a fun one today.
Happy New Day.
Thanks, friends on Facebook and YouTube. I hope this was useful and